finding the one thing that 99% of people like don't hit you with, and going after that. Like Harry and Chris, his partner, like we didn't connect because I was like, oh, I'm a huge fan of like Logic and everything you guys are doing. It was to talk about like VC stuff, because that's the stuff they wanted to get into, and just connecting them with other investors in the space. So yeah, it's, in my opinion, it's all about finding the one thing that sets you apart from the introduction, because they'll also remember that, down the line.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to It's the Bearded Man podcast with your favorite, the world's favorite bearded man, Bob Bay. Each week with our guest episodes, I try to put the spotlight on someone who, in my eyes, has given themselves permission to live a life authentic to them. Our guest today is from San Diego, California. He's the founder and CEO of Sharma Brands, a strategic initiatives from working in a wide range of brands to help them grow and scale revenue across digital platforms. He's worked with brands such as Hint Water, Pill Club, JUDY, Roc Nation, Dude, and more, which has resulted in new strategies, milestones, and millions of dollars in additional revenue from these companies. He was selected as Forbes 30 Under 30 in 2019. Some people know him as the DTC Guy. Today on the podcast, fellow bearded brother, Nik Sharma.
What's going on?
How we doing?
I'm good, man. I spent the last month or so growing this beard out for you.
Oh, let's go. I'm honored. I am honored. We got to give a quick shout out to Harry Remler for helping initiate this conversation. I was chatting with him through DM about, I think, a podcast episode for either my show or somebody else. And he's like, have you talked to Nik Sharma yet? And I was like, no, but I know of him and I see him on my Twitter every day, all day. It would make sense. He's like, I'm gonna put you guys in touch right now, and I was like, let's fire it up. So
that's
shout
awesome.
out to Harry real one time.
Harry's the man. He's my workout buddy, my Rumble buddy,
wow,
dinner buddy.
Wow,
he's the man out here.
Unbelievable. You know what's crazy? I keep having these pinch me moments a lot more now in my life. Is like Harry's somebody I've been watching from afar for literally a decade with Visionary Music Group, watching him build Logic, John Bellion, and so it's like so surreal to me to like be in the DMs with somebody like him where it's just seeing like full circle life happen. And it's just so rewarding when you just, you just follow your path. You try to give good to the world, give value when you can, but to see somebody like that become like in a conversation, like through DM, it's just surreal to me sometimes. So it's cool to hear that's like your workout buddy, your homie. And yeah, he just, I haven't met him yet in person, but I like his energy and he seems like a great guy.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like if you're a kid growing up, you're like, I want to be friends with that guy one day.
Yeah.
And there's no way that you can predict how it'll happen, but it is pretty surreal to like have a friend like Harry or be around some of the people that you end up interacting with. You're just like, wait a second, why am I here? What am I doing here? Like, what's going on? How am I in this room?
Yeah. You're just like, can we pause this for a second? Cause I don't understand how the hell we got here, but yeah, I think it all comes down to people that just, you follow that true north of what you want to do. And with time, doors open, you get yourself in the right room and you just try to be a listener more than somebody that's talking. And it's at some point you find your way in navigating it and, more doors just continue to open, which keeps it exciting.
Couldn't agree.
Man, one trait about you that I know to be true is you're not afraid to get started. This is very clear to me based on just some of the research. I think you had started your first business, Social View Media, I think it was called.
Yeah, wow, shocked you found that.
Oh yeah, we were in the trenches finding information about you today. But not only that, you had that confidence to start your own business at 15. You've gone on to launch, I think, more than 4 businesses, at least from what I've come across. Where did you build this initial inner confidence to get started? That's the hardest thing to learn. And then I think once you learn it, you just apply it to everything else that you ever want to do in your life. But how did you build that inner confidence when you were 15?
I think honestly, it came from my parents who were both entrepreneurs, like just watching them like do it. There was that's kind of like what I grew up around, it's when I was even younger, like if I wanted something, I had to figure out like why, how, and like what are the things required to get it, right? So even if it was I wanted a new bike, like, all right, you want a new bike? All right, find the bike you want to get instead. Okay, how much does that cost? All right, how are you going to get that money? Okay, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to sell my bike. So I would go door to door and like sell the bike in my neighborhood. And then, that was the unlock to go get a new bike. It wasn't just, all right, let's go buy a new bike and throw this one away. All the way to like, I loved the idea of selling as a kid. And so anyways, I think just growing up around it. Also, my idols were not movie stars. They weren't musicians. They weren't actors and actresses. They were literally like Mark Cuban. I worked with Pitbull at one point, doing social media.
Pretty epic.
Yeah,
and F15, right? F15, you were doing this?
Yeah, and like meeting Pitbull was like meeting a normal person, right? No goosebumps at all. But then like meeting somebody who's an icon in the business world, like I get nervous.
Wow.
So I guess I've always loved businesses. I've always loved reading about business. I've when I was in high school, it was figuring out how to like leverage seniors to go get off-campus lunch, bring it back and sell it for 3 times more. Like that's the kind of stuff that fascinated me. And the other thing I learned too, and kind of like understood very deeply early on, is like, if you don't start, it's worse than not starting and failing. You can start and fail and learn something. You still get something as a net positive out of it, as long as, of course, you're not hurting people in the process. Or you can not start and completely miss the opportunity. And I always think like 20 years down the road, I literally always think about this when I think about doing something. It's like 20 years down the road, if I'm sitting with friends and family around a fire, like a backyard fire pit, because that's what my parents used to always do in San Diego with their friends, is like, am I gonna talk about the opportunity I had and just be like, damn, I really should have done that. Like I completely missed the chance to do that and I totally should have done it. I think about that, whether it's like, for example, literally 20 minutes ago, we launched an NFT project that I've been working on, all the way to like, Monday night, I hosted a dinner and there was, 25, 30 people in this private room. And I'm like, everybody's having a good time. Should I ring the bell and make an announcement or not? And, my present day me is like, oh no, it's fine. Like, let everybody keep hanging. They know that I'm hosting it and blah, blah, blah. But then, I think, all right, like 2 hours from now, I'm going to be like, fuck, you're an idiot. You should have just rang the thing and like said something, it doesn't take anything. And so, I guess that's what it is. I just realized that like there's no harm in starting anything, and the worst thing that can happen is you lose time and resources along the way. But you're hopefully doing that in a calculated way too.
Yeah, 2 things. One, it's unbelievable the amount of lesson that you learn from that. If you want a bike, sell your bike, go find the way to make that money to then buy the next one. That little hustle, that little lesson is so important to then clearly the hustle that you have in you and today and what's gotten you to this point in your life. Very much the same. Like I started working at 12 and like those little lessons and seeing $1 for $1 really helped me become who I am today. Mm-hmm. But then also too similar, it's like, it is so much easier for me at the end of the day to go to sleep knowing I took a shot. I sent the cold email. I asked for help. I started the project. I did the podcast. Like it's overcoming that inner dialogue of us giving every excuse to not do it.
Exactly.
We don't have the time. We don't have the resources. We're not going to be good, blah, blah, blah. It's like, just cut out that inner voice and dialogue of you coming up with every excuse and just execute. And you are going to feel so good because you're going to learn. If you fall on your face, it's going to help you prepare for the future. And it allows you to look in. I always think of it like the deathbed analogy, right? 80 years from now, whatever, you're on your deathbed. Do you want to be able to look back going, you know what? I did it. I tried. Mm-hmm. I went for it. Or do you want to sit there with regret going, I wish I could have, should have, would have done blank. And then to me, it's so much easier knowing like, just shoot the shot, go for it. What's the worst is actually going to happen.
Yeah. And the other thing too, that I think is super important there is like making sure you surround yourself with the right people. Boom. Right. So whether it's your, basically it doesn't matter like who your family or who your friends are. It's really up to you to make sure that the people you surround yourself with, whether that is your parents or it's not because they're discouraging, or it's the people that you hang with on a Friday night or the people that you work with, or, whatever it may be, like the people you surround yourself with is so important and detrimental to to what you do and what you are capable of doing. If somebody's always discouraging you from doing something or thinking it's silly or stupid or not worth your time, like you just wouldn't do it, because naturally that's what you start to think. But if somebody is like, oh, you're dropping 30 NFTs, like these gifts that people buy for $5,000, and they encourage that, then you're more likely to do it. And even if it fails, like I don't know if our NFT is going to fail. I'm guessing it's probably still going to fail. But like if it does, I still learn something out of it, and I know that the people around me were excited to be a part of it. And we'll figure out what the next step is. Little rant, but
No,
I think it's so important. Like the five, my mom always told me growing up, the 5 people you surround yourself with is the person you become.
100%.
And the 5 people you surround yourself with dictate your attitude, your mood, your ambition, your drive, your opportunities, your network. Everything kind of surrounds itself around that. And it's so important to just surround yourself with the right people. And there's so many people that I know who are just brilliantly smart. They put themselves with the wrong people, and they will never see their like full true potential because of it.
Yeah. When we were talking about Harry, that's exactly what I was going to hint at, is like the reason that you find yourself getting in the right rooms and elevating in your life and your career and all these other things is because you're surrounding yourself with these people that allow you to think. It's almost like when you surround yourself with the right people, and it doesn't have to be people in the same space as you. It just has to be people that positively inspire you, that influence you, that support you. It molds your mind and your brain to think and see the world so much differently than the average Joe, because you're around people that it's not a question of if, it's like how or when, or like, these people aren't going to be questioning your decision making of launching an NFT. They're going to be like, great, like how can I support you? Like, okay, maybe it didn't go as well as it did, but like, what did you learn from it? Or how are you going to change this for the future? So has there been any, like, how have you determined, like, yes, this is almost like building boundaries, right? Like, how do you determine, yes, this is somebody I want part of my life, or no, I should like keep my distance and, respect and be a human being if I see this person, but like, that's not somebody I need to be around all the time?
It's a good question. I think it comes down to like, how somebody almost like sees themselves is a big one for me. Do they see themselves as somebody who can achieve things, and do they have their own ambition, their own drive? Do they like respect themselves? Are they secure with who they are? That's a big one for me, because I don't know, ever since I was really young, I could very quickly pick up on people's traits. Like I can pick up when somebody is very insecure about something, or if somebody is looking to mooch off to get something, or if somebody, isn't respectful to somebody else. That's a huge red flag to me. So, I guess like respect is a big one. Ambition is a big one. I like to surround myself with people who make me feel like I'm not doing enough, and not in the sense of like hustle porn, but more like, like again, look at Harry, for example. Harry's like managing some of the biggest artists in the game. He's going out, he's raising a fund, like he's working on side projects. Like that's who I want to surround myself with, because like Harry pushes me to be a better person, both professionally, personally, as a human being. He's like one of the nicest people in the world, and socially, in every aspect. I guess even from like a younger age, I've always had kind of a very like tight knit crew of people that I trust or hang with or socialize with. And that's still true today. I probably have like, 10 to 15 people that are like in my core nucleus circle. And obviously like, having a following on Twitter, that circle ripples out. But there's definitely people who I'll see and be like, yeah, I can't have this energy in my life, because this sucks energy out of me. It changes my mood. It changes my ambition, changes my like, emotion, whatever it is. It's just it's not valuable to me. And, you don't really owe anybody your time either.
Yeah, it has a ripple effect. I think you can learn so much about people by simply just observing them. Like you're saying, like how they carry themselves, the way they treat people, the way they talk about people behind their backs. Like just observing and listening will tell you so much about a person. There was an example about a year ago where I was out to dinner with somebody, and the way they treated the waiter, like I had nothing but good things to say about this person. And maybe it was just the moment in time. Everyone has their bad days, but it was just the way this person communicated with the waiter that I honestly was like, I can't be around this. Like, if you can't respect somebody like that is of service to you right now, that's not my type of energy. So I think there's so much to be said about just watching people and how 100%. And observing that and then making a decision. Is that the type of energy you want to be around? And if not, the sooner you can cut those types of people out of your life that feel like it's sucking the energy, the more you can wake up and feel clear and fulfilled and purposeful and passionate and positive. And it really does impact every aspect of your life when you take control of these people you're surrounding yourself with.
Couldn't agree more.
What are 3 important skills that you've had to develop to get to where you are today in your career?
The first one that comes to mind is being able to write a good cold email. I think.
What's the secret sauce? Because I think a lot of people want to know that. You did like a Twitter.
I did a whole
recently,
thread,
right?
I was literally flying to Miami, and on the plane, like the plane is for me the best place to just crush emails. Great. And I was just going through emails, and I get so many emails a day.
How many cold emails a week or a day?
A week, probably. Well, so a day, I mean, I put 1,000 in the thread, but it's like 1,000 total between spam, between work, between personal, between cold emails. I would say probably like anywhere from like 80 to 100 cold emails a day. But it's because like my email is like all over the internet. Yeah. But there's a huge difference between good cold emails and terrible cold emails. And, good cold emails are basically short, sweet, to the point. They open with something that conveys that you actually know who you're talking to versus like, hey, first name, blah, blah, blah. It's very obvious. So in your case, hey, Bobby, I love the Pina Colada Liquid IV. And, right there, you already know, I know who you are. And I know that it's not just like, hey, Bobby, hope you're enjoying your time. Hope your week is going well. Right.
Yeah.
And then it goes into a very quick, like who you are, right. Yeah. Setting the stage of credibility. So like my name is Nick. I work with these 3 brands, and I wanted to reach out about a partnership. So right there, it's like who I am, the credibility, and my goal. And then you need a call to action that basically gets the other person to say yes, no, or I'm CCing this person, talk to them. Mm-hmm. So I would say, we want to launch a partnership with Full Send. Who should we talk to on your team? Right. And right away, you'll just be like, yes, this sounds good. Like looping in Kenny, right? Yeah. And Kenny takes over the conversation. Or you just say, yes, we're in, looping this person in for next step. So it makes it very easy versus like the worst ones I get are, hey, do you have time for a call? Or, hey, can we jump on a Zoom? Or the absolute worst, hey, can I ask you a question? I'm like, dude, like I opened this message and now I'm not going to open your next one.
Just ask the question.
Just ask the question.
Yeah.
And, I like the cold emails is a trick that's always worked for me. From trying to, from like getting my job at Hint all the way to like, helping Morning Brew get Mark Cuban on their podcast. The cold emails just work. Everybody who is successful checks their own email. They don't usually have other people checking their email for them. And cold emails are like, if you're good at cold emails, it's a fast pass to life.
Yeah.
Even if it's getting a reservation at a restaurant, if you're good at writing cold emails, you'll always get that reservation. Same thing goes for hotels. Every aspect of life, cold emails work.
Yeah. It's about making literally every work on top of the credibility, providing people some context so who the hell you're talking to. It's really being mindful of people's time and recognizing, like, now knowing somebody hears this, they go, wow, Nick gets 80 to 100 emails a day. How am I not only going to grab his attention, but how can I respect his time? And that means literally making sure every word is accountable. You're not sending some massive, like 3-page essay, like literally can be a cold email could be 3 to 5 sentences at the very max. And it's just like, get that initial conversation flowing, and then you can provide context and send the deck and all that other jazz. But, it's a hack to life. And you mentioned Hint, what I think is you're a great example. And as we're kind of talking about cold meals, it's like creating, not only creating your own opportunities, but grabbing people's attention or finding ways in that are creative that other than like submitting a resume. Like Hint, I believe like you had been tweeting the company and the founders and you like grab their attention, which is like, that's like one of the greatest lessons my mom taught me growing up. If she ever hears this, love you, Mom. She doesn't listen to the podcast, but make sure to hear this one. I was applying to jobs as a kid, and she's like, you need to go in there dressed up the part, and you need to introduce yourself to the manager and directly ask, are you hiring? Because they're going to get applications all day long, stand out from the crowd. And that's exactly what you did with Hint. How have you, like, not only with cold emails, but like, how have you just always approached this to your life of like, not only create the opportunity, but find a way to stand out from the crowd?
I mean, it depends. I feel like in different scenarios, I'll do it in different ways. Like, you know, for example, like three instances come to mind right away. One that David Perel loves to talk about is, who you should definitely have on this pod soon, is, you know, anytime I go to an event with him, everybody starts to run around to look for people to like network with and talk with. And during the keynotes while they're happening, he always calls me out for being on Twitter and looking at the hashtag of the event and trying to see who's here and quickly start DMing everybody to go meet for 5 minutes here or there. So that's one, right? Like approaching in a medium where people are not normally approached. And I remember even back when I was working at an ad tech company, there were deals that I would close because I'd add the client's number to my phone and open Snapchat and find their Snap thing, and then message them on Snapchat because that's where they're not getting anything.
Wow.
So it just kind of like worked at the time.
So genius.
The other one that comes to mind is, you know, I landed in Las Vegas for Shop Talk a couple years ago, and getting on the plane, I knew that, or I saw Zed in first class. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's Zed, but I'm not 100% sure. And I was literally like one seat away, one person away from being upgraded to first class, and I would have sat right next to him. But you know, I didn't. And so leaving the plane, I'm like, all right, I don't know if that's 100% him. I checked his Instagram. I saw a runway. So I'm like, there's a very good chance that that it is him. So then we start deplaning. I see him take this Odyssey flight case, which is essentially like what DJs put all their equipment in when they travel. And so I see him walking down, and he's obviously got his hood on because his face is plastered all over the airport. And he goes into the bathroom. I'm like, all right, I guess I'm going to the bathroom too. So I walk into the bathroom, and you know, the entire flight, all I'm thinking is, all right, there's no doubt whether I'm going to run into him on purpose. It's more about like, what do I say that doesn't make me seem like, oh my God, I'm a crazy fan, right? And so I look up his first name, and his real first name is Anton. And so instead of calling him Zed, I'm going to call him Anton. The second thing was, when I was doing social for artists, one of the artists that I worked on from like the very beginning, you know, started all their social handles and everything, was Magic, this band that, you know, they have that song, Why You Gotta Be So Rude. And so anyways, he did the Zed remix to it that was played everywhere. And so I run into him in the bathroom, you know, we're both at the urinal. I realized there's only one paper towel dispenser, and it's behind like the sink all the way to the right. So he goes to the sink all the way to the left. And so I knew he had to walk there. So he walks there, and as soon as he's like grabbing his thing, I just turn around and I'm like, oh, Anton? And he's like, yeah, hey. And I was like, oh man, I don't know if you remember, like I started the, you know, whatever. And so that's how that ended up happening. And then he's like, oh shit, come to the show tonight, you know, and I ended up there, and it was the wildest thing. And so that was another example. And then the third example, kind of off the same thing, is like, you know, I was walking home from the office. Our office is in Soho, and I live in Chelsea. And so I'm basically walking up, I think it was walking up 7th Ave. And I'm walking with a friend of mine, Kendall, and she points out, she's like, oh shit, that's Bobby Flay sitting drinking coffee over there. And I was like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah, that's definitely Bobby Flay. So I know he was a part of this launch for a cat food brand that recently launched. And so I was like, all right, I'm just going to go say hi. Cause like, how many other times are you going to run into Bobby Flay? And how many times you're going to hate yourself for not at least going and saying hi. And so I just walk up to him, and I'm like, hey, I'm so sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to say I'm a huge fan of your cat food brand. And he starts dying laughing. And versus like, oh, get away from me.
Yeah.
And, it happens like all the time. Like anytime I see a celebrity or somebody I want to talk to, really anybody, I try to think of like, what is the thing that nobody says?
Yes.
And, like it happened once with Mia Khalifa at the airport, but it was because, I was sending her a ton of Hint water when I was at Hint. And at first she's like, oh, no pictures, nothing. And I was like, no, it's Nick from Hint. I used to send you the water. And she's like, oh my God, Nick, it's so nice to meet you. Like, it was just crazy. But, it's basically like finding the one thing that 99% of people like don't hit you with and going after that. Like Chris, Harry and Chris, his partner, like we didn't connect because I was like, oh, I'm a huge fan of like Logic and everything you guys are doing. It was to talk about like VC stuff, because that's the stuff they wanted to get into, and just connecting them with other investors in the space. So yeah, it's, in my opinion, it's all about finding the one thing that sets you apart from the introduction, because they'll also remember that, down the line.
Yeah, it's one, props to you for always, when you see these opportunities, you're stepping up and you're actually saying something to these people, because 99% of people won't, and they would be too scared to do so. Props to you for obviously initiating that, but then to get so specific of like, yeah, I'm going to call Zed by his first name, or like, I am literally the same person as you. Like when I see these opportunities, I just go for it, but I will take a moment to consider, what am I going to say? How am I going to say it? And I've realized even too, it's the tone of how you communicate to people will make all the difference. Like how you like, if you're a fan of somebody and you see them, like people will respect that as long as you're calm and you're cool, you're collective. You're not like, oh my God, it's Zed. It's like, hey, it's not like I'm a big fan of you. Just wanted to say once again, back to the cold emails, short, simple, straight to the point, not wasting people's time, and people appreciate it. And happened to me a year ago. I was running and ran into Kendrick Lamar, and I didn't even hesitate. I was like, Kendrick, I'm a massive fan, man. Like, do you mind if I run with you for just a couple minutes? And he's like, sure. I flipped to you. Running back the direction I just came, and I caught a vibe with him in Manhattan Beach for like 3 minutes, and I still can't believe it happened. But you gotta go for it when these opportunities arise, because it's one of those moments where if you don't go for it, you're gonna look back going, I should have. Like, how many times do you see Bobby Flay sitting having coffee? Probably once in a lifetime. So say what up and say something that's gonna make him remember, like, you're Nick, the guy that complimented my cat company, where everyone else is going to say, love your food, love your show, love like your restaurants, Completely.
Yeah.
So good. Quick break from today's episode, and then we'll get right back to it. Ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to share with you quickly today, if you did not hear the news last week, I now have an app. The Stay Dialed app is alive. It is everywhere. You need to get on this app. This app is your accountability community. This is something that I have been lacking, wanting, and needing since I've entered the content space back in 2016. Is really a place to direct listeners of this podcast, people that follow me on IG, people that maybe watch my YouTube content. I have not had a place for like-minded growth mindset individuals to go to communicate with one another, and we finally have that. So if you're watching visually, you can see it, but the Stay Dialed In app is on my phone right now, and this is going to be your accountability community for 2022 and beyond. There are daily notifications. There are private videos and podcasts. There is a photo section, which will have some inspiration. There is a community section where there's all these different categories, such as life experiences, relationships, health and wellness. There's all these different categories where you can actually interact with other people within the app. So this is going to be a big step for me, 2022 and beyond. So if you'd like to check it out, please head over to join.staydialedin.com to learn more. We'll have that in the link of the description of this episode, but I am so excited. And just from the launch, we've had a lot of great feedback, and there's going to be a lot of changes moving forward as we make some adjustments to the app and we kind of figure out what's working, what's not. But I'm just so pumped to kick off the new year with this app and to help all of you guys and gals get clear on what you want and help you stay accountable to showing up and doing it. It's not about one specific area of your life. It's about all of them. And it's about being honest with yourself about what do you want and putting in the proper time, energy into these areas of life to then see the progress over, a period of time. So check it out today, join.staydialedin.com. Once again, that is the official Stay Dialed In app. You need to get on it, and let's stay dialed in all 2022. Let's get it. Now back to the episode. Everyone wants to be the top dog, right? CEO, founder of a company. Everyone, even I'm guilty of it. I think that's, that's where I want to be. And then we don't realize what comes with being a CEO, being a leader, being a founder. What have been some of the hurdles or challenges that you've had since starting Sharma Brands, which I think launched in March 2019? So you're coming up on 3 years within the next couple of months. Have there been certain hurdles or struggles that you've had to overcome?
Yeah. I think it's very romanticized what it means to be a CEO or a founder. I have a ton of friends who are founders. And it's literally the opposite. Sometimes you're just like, fuck, I wish I was the guy, working till 5:30 and then clocking out and going to play kickball or whatever it is. But at the same time, it's also very rewarding. It's definitely not something I think that should be romanticized. I think it's just like another job, right? It's just another job title. And all it means is you just have a different set of roles and responsibilities. And, in most cases, if you're a CEO of a company that's probably under, $500 million, you're probably working 24/7, or you've got your phone on you. Most people probably are a CEO of a company of under $500 million company. But there's it's not, it's like being an athlete, right? Not everybody's made to be an athlete. There's a lot of things that come with it, a lot of sacrifices that come with it. There's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of things you miss out on. Not to make this sound like a hustle podcast, but I think that it's kind of crazy when people are like, oh, I really want to be, I have a friend who's a growth marketer. He's like, I just want to be a founder. I just want to launch my own thing. And I'm like, dude, you see it from one lens, and you believe that's what you want to do. But you're missing the other 47 things that are miserable, that make this job miserable. And, an employee is never going to go through the thought of, oh shit, if we don't get this wire tomorrow, I have to dip into my savings to make payroll for the whole company. Or, just thinking 6 months from now, what are we doing as a company? Are we doing the same thing? Are we growing? How does this compare to what I should be doing? Am I doing the right thing? Those are all kind of the things that are constantly going through the mind. Versus I'm a founder and I get a Twitter presence and I'm in this founder Slack group and blah, blah, blah. And, it's easy to launch a product and whatever. It's really tough. But at the same time, it's also like another job, right? Each job has its own ups and downs to it.
Yeah. You have to be really honest with yourself about, just self-aware of are you able to compete at that level? And are you willing to take on that much responsibility where it is not a normal 9 to 5? You might have employees hitting you up on a weekend because they're stressed out with work and they need to communicate. You're always it's so interesting about, I didn't realize until I started working at Liquid IV, and I saw it early when I joined, I was the 23rd employee. Now we're, close to 100, 2 years later. But, people think of a chart and you have the CEO or the founders up top, but in reality, I look at it, it's the other way around, because the CEO and founder and the executive team, they are the cement structure of the company. And if any 100%. One of them is weak, or not in the sense physically weak, but if one of them lacks, it ripples through the rest of the company. And so are you willing to have that much pressure riding on you, where not only do you have a role and a job that you have your day-to-day, you're saying, you got to think big picture. Where are we going in 6 months? What's the next role we're hiring? This employee is not working well. Do we get rid of this employee? I can't even imagine the amount of thoughts and questions that in real time. I got to see it with Brandon of Liquid IV when we were still in office before being remote, and seeing how he had to compartmentalize and his schedule, and going from a finance meeting to a creative meeting to then 3-year visioning meeting. It's you have to be very, very good with controlling thoughts, emotions, and being able to flip that switch at any moment in time you're the firefighter. You're putting out all these different fires all the time.
Yeah, I have a saying that's basically like 9 to 5, you work for your team, and 5 to 9, your team, you do your own work.
Wow.
Like the daytime is really dedicated to making sure everybody else has gotten everything they need. Clients are happy, whether clients are actual clients, or if you're, a product business, your clients are the targets and your customers, right? Basically making sure your customers and your employees are happy and satisfied and excited. And then after everybody goes home, that's where you kick in, and that's where you get to get your work done. Like my day usually starts 7:38 in the morning. I'm usually doing emails for like an hour or so. And then I come to the office. It's office time. It's making sure that customers are happy, clients are happy, projects are moving, things are happening. My team walks in and they have a question, they have a problem, something comes up. A client's being annoying, or a client's just, sucking too much time out. All right, now I got to figure out, okay, do we have to fire this client? Is this client gonna, and what do I do with that revenue that I projected for the next 4 months? Am I just like taking that out of myself? Is that I take on something else on the side? And then, everybody goes home. I go home at like 6. I usually rest for an hour or so, eat some food, chill, watch some Nelk, Danny Duncan. And yeah. And then it's like right back to the computer. I'm back on the computer at like 7:38, and I'm usually there till 11. Wow. And then I try to go back to sleep and get my full 8 or 9 hours of sleep.
Wow. Yeah. You're constantly, there's always going to be more work to be done. But I think even like taking those moments to have that hour break, to have the dinner, to watch a little bit of YouTube, to like let your mind reset so that when you go back to the work, you're like ready to get back in it. I think it's really important to be mindful when it comes to that. You mentioned the sleep aspect. I know that is something that you talked about where you wish you had learned this earlier in your career, which was not only focusing on getting 8 hours of sleep, but also being open-minded to taking off a weekend and not working every single minute of every hour of every day. How important are both these lessons for you? Just not only mentally, probably physically helps you, but then also I think there is something to be said about when you have balance in your life, you're more excited for the work when you dive back into it, when you have that time to reset.
So sleep is probably my number one priority right now. I treat sleep the same way I treat like making sure I make the calendar time for us to have this podcast, or the same way that I treat, meeting somebody who's a CEO or whatever they are for dinner, right? Yeah. Like it's just as important for me to get in bed at a certain time and make sure that I've planned, all right, I'm getting X amount of hours tonight. Or, for example, this past week, Sunday, I woke up at 4 a.m., flew to LA, landed there, basically just hung out in LA. Then Monday, I spoke at BevNet. Monday night, I'm hosting a dinner. Okay, I know that this dinner is going to start at like 6:30 or 7. It ends at probably 10, hopefully. I think it ended at like 11:30. So now I'm like, all right, now I got to recalibrate because I got to get up at 4 a.m. for my flight back. And but you got to plan it out, right? You're like, all right, I'm getting less sleep here, so I'm going to wake up at 4. I'm going to fly back. I had an event that we hosted on Tuesday night, and that I knew had to end right at 8 because that's when the venue shut down or shut us out. Basically, pushed us out the door. Yeah. So I was like, all right, that's going to end at 8. I'll be home by 9. I'm passing out at 9:45 latest. Like I just have to. There's no other way because now I'm sleep deprived, and it's really important to get caught up on sleep. But sleep is a huge unlock because what I've learned is, one, alcohol or substances really mess your sleep up. Even if it's a glass of wine, just one shot of tequila, just one drink, like that fucks your sleep completely. Cannabis, a little bit less, depending on how much you consume. But the biggest thing it'll do is you don't get really into deep sleep, and you lose your dreams at night when you smoke weed. So anyway, so sleep quality is huge for me. So I was like, at the beginning of this year, I was like, all right, no alcohol this year because it's just, and that's the irony, is all this alcohol sitting behind me on my desk. I don't drink any of it.
Pretty much just like not allowing yourself to touch it.
Yeah. And it's not even that it's not even that like I miss drinking or whatnot. Like I just personally, it's not even like I'm cutting alcohol out on purpose. It's just that I value sleep so much that I naturally will not touch alcohol.
Wow.
Like a friend of mine, one of my really close friends is this DJ. He goes by Modern Machines in here in New York. And, you know, he plays all the clubs or opens at MSG. And like he's sober and I'm not, you know, technically like sober, but I don't really drink that much. And whenever we go out, we're just drinking water. And it's like, it's not like the experience is any duller. It's just, we just prefer to drink water. And the next morning we wake up, we can go crush a workout at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
And we both get great sleep.
You're sleeping like kings.
Exactly. Sleeping like kings with our 8 sleep beds. And, you know, it's just like what I've learned is if you get a good sleep at night, you are able to function at twice the productivity versus if you get like an okay sleep. And that delta of being able to do twice as more than if you didn't get good sleep over the course of a year or even just a month or even just a week is huge. There are so many more things you can do. Your brain is fresher. So even like scientifically, like your decisions are better.
Yes.
You know, whether it's the choice of food that you decide to eat versus or even up to like the decisions you decide to make. Like your brain is just sharper when you get good sleep.
Yeah. 2 things. One, it's you talk about you flying to LA, you flying back to New York. You're gonna have those times where you have to just make it work. You have to adjust, right? Like you're only gonna get 4 hours of sleep, and that's okay. But you know that over the long period, you're gonna average that 8 hours. Like you're gonna have to sacrifice here and there to travel for businesses. You're up later than you anticipated. Got to get up early the next morning. That's fine. But on average, you know you're gonna stick to that 8 hour sleep schedule. And what you were just saying, it is unbelievable. And I used to trick myself to believe it. Like, I'm going to get up 2 hours. I'm going to sacrifice the 2 hours of sleep because I'm going to be able to be more productive with that extra 2 hours. But the reality is when you give yourself that extra 2 hours, the next 24 hours, you're sharper, like you're saying, for that entire 24 hours. You're actually more productive. You feel better. You see things differently. So we so many times think that like by us cutting out sleep, we get more time to do X, Y, and Z thing. But in reality, that extra 2 hours of sleep is just going to make such a difference on that 24 hours ahead of you.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
So good. Outside of sleep though, balance. I think that was another part you talked about the importance of taking weekends off and making sure you're enjoying yourself. Obviously, I think once again, that is like seasons of life. If you're launching an NFT, like you're going to be probably hitting the ground hard for the next 24 hours, maybe all weekend, you're going to be crushing it, sending it out. Or, you know, once again, there's those times where you have to compartmentalize and understand, like, I got to go all in on this. But how has making sure that you have balance, that you take time to smell the roses, to go to the dinners, to take the trip, like, how has that been impacting you?
To be honest, I probably don't do the best job of that. I'd say I'm good at like balancing within my weeks. Like I'm good at saying, all right, you know, this week, like holiday times are kind of an anomaly. Like, you know, this week and last week, every single night there's some event going on that I have to go to. And it's not like I'm going out and just partying either. It's like, you know, we're hosting a dinner, or we're doing something. But normally it's like the most that I will do is allow myself to have like 2 events a week. And the other 3, and that's because one, like there's still a lot of work to be done at nighttime that I do. The second is like, I love knowing that, you know, this 4-hour stretch that I get to work at night, like it's weird how excited I get when I know I don't have to worry about notifications coming in. There's no calls on my calendar. There's no one's going to ask me for anything. I can just zone in and work and knock things out. And that is like, honestly, that's one of my favorite things to do. But I would say other than that, like I try to make sure that I delegate as much as I can, which was something that was like hard for me to learn, but has become very fruitful over time. And the other one is like, just again, making sure that I'm getting those workouts in, or making sure the food that I eat is like good food, right? I try not to eat things that are like packaged. I try to stay away from anything that's like not necessarily considered good for you. or that like, someone like Justin Mayers wouldn't eat. I don't know if you know Justin Mayers, the Kettle and Fire CEO. He's like a nerd about optimizing your body. And I mean nerd in a good way. I'm a nerd.
You're a nerd. I'm a nerd too. We're all nerds, of course.
So I basically just make sure I sleep well, I eat well, I stay hydrated is a huge one for me. And that like, I'm also getting my own kind of mental, like personal time, right? Whether that's me watching Danny Duncan and just sitting on my couch and like, and just sitting there and watching it and enjoying it. Like that's what I consider good personal time, all the way to just chilling and working. Like I can work and feel like that's my personal time too.
Yeah, because you enjoy what you're doing. So at the end of the day,
exactly.
It's like, it is work. It's what you do to pay the bills and whatever. But like to a certain extent, it's like you would, if you had to start at zero tomorrow, you would still want to do this because this is 100%. Like, this is your true north. This is your passion. If you told me for the rest of your life, you're never going to make $1 podcasting, I'm still going to do it because there's a greater purpose to why I'm doing it. So when I hear that, I immediately go, this is somebody that has found what they're supposed to be doing, their passion, their purpose. And that's the best thing. And I just want to echo the importance of taking care of your body and fueling it with the right foods and getting that. It's that when you take care of yourself, it just has a complete ripple effect on everything else that you do in your life. So I love that, that you're prioritizing that. I know previously you were the head of DTC for VaynerMedia at one point. Big Gary Vee fan. What have you, is there a lesson you've directly or indirectly learned from him, whether it was when you were working at Vayner or even just from afar watching him operate?
Yeah, I think actually I mean, there's probably one there and one before. The one before was just genuinely like the respect for other people. I think, his like when he started putting content out on like YouTube, just watching how respectful he is to people was, to me, I was like, oh, wow. It's actually really cool to be nice. It's like cool to be like the nice guy and be respectful to others. And that probably had a huge impact on just me as a person being nice to people. And I think it's super underrated. Like, kind of like you were mentioning earlier, like, thanking the doorman on the way in, say the way you treat the waiter when they bring you a glass of water or refill your water. Like so many small things that not only are good to do as a genuine human being, but that other people also will recognize and say, wow, that's awesome. Yeah. The second one, I think, being in Vayner was really just seeing how he's built this ecosystem of, he operates like 12 to 15 companies huge companies on a daily basis. And just seeing how he's like built this system around delegation and his teams and, the way he runs businesses, it's fascinating. But I think the biggest one is really just like, what he preaches all the time, which is just like empathy and self-awareness and patience. And, you don't have to be the bad guy to win. And those are probably the things that made like the biggest impact as I was, growing up, I guess.
Yeah. I love the being nice to people is so underrated. And even a recent hack that I've realized was so important is pretty much anytime you are somewhere where somebody is wearing a name tag, they're working, they're bagging your groceries, they are the waiter, anybody that has a name tag, it is unbelievable how you can change somebody's day within 3 seconds of acknowledging them by their name.
Yeah.
And it's such a little hack that by you making somebody feel good, you feel good. And so it's like a win-win. And it's just been something recently that I started doing where I really try to make a point that if I see somebody wearing a name tag, to call them out by their name, like, oh, thanks for, have a great day, Paul. Yesterday was the guy at Trader Joe's, and just, it was like, as if he just like had a shot of caffeine. He's like, oh yeah, have a great day too. Like they don't expect it. And then you feel good and you're like, fuck yeah, I made him feel good. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Gary. I love his content. That's that he pushes. Awesome. And he's my last of the third. There were 3 people when I started podcasting that I had on the must list, and Lewis Howes was the second one. The third one is Gary Vee, which is it's going to happen within the next 3 months. I'm going to find a way to get him through the door, but at some point it's going to happen.
Yeah, that's awesome.
What's unless you have anything else you want to say about Gary, I don't want to cut you off.
No,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
good.
Okay. What are two lessons that you learned in your career that you've incorporated just into like your daily life? I know we've talked about balance. I know we've talked about some of like being a CEO and a founder and a leader. You're having to compartmentalize, but maybe even just one. Is there any other lesson you've learned in your business life that you've incorporated into just maybe day-to-day life?
Yeah, there's probably two. One's very practical and the other is not so like tactical. The tactical one is like be very obsessed with like planning things in the sense of like, in work, we plan with our calendar, we schedule things, we make sure that we show up to things. It's a part of our job to show up on time and to do things on a schedule. And in our personal life, sometimes we don't do that, right? Like something as simple as figuring out dinner, right? If you go shopping to Trader Joe's on Sunday, you can basically plan out your dinner for the week or your meals for the week, whatever it is. And now you know that like that's one less thing to worry about. And what does that do? That one, it saves you time. It saves you the stress of thinking, oh shit, what do I eat when you leave the office and you're heading home? But two, it just makes sure that like you don't make that stupid decision to go grab a slice of oily pizza instead of going home and having something that's probably a lot better for you. So that's one. The second one is don't do things for money, right? So like that I think is probably a lesson that I've seen in friends who live in places like Miami or LA or anytime where there's vices involved. It's easy to get sucked into the money and what comes with it, the clout, the money, the high around it. And I always tell people, like, if you wouldn't be proud of your face on a billboard that says right next to it exactly how you make your money, you should absolutely not try to make your money that way. Like if you're not proud of that, then you just shouldn't.
All right. Now we're going to get into the final five. These are the last 5 questions of the podcast. They can only be answered in one sentence though. So
okay.
You might want to spit some game, but try to summarize it in one sentence. And if we need to give you a little bit more room, we can do so. Final 5. Cool. First question. How can people learn to give themselves permission to follow their interests or ideas?
You got to surround yourself with people who enable it.
Yes. Number 2, if you could go back and tell yourself one piece of advice at any point of your life, what would the advice be and when would you tell yourself that?
I would tell myself this at probably right at the beginning of high school. And I would say, whatever interest you have, try to build a following in that space, because down the line, it becomes a fast pass to anything you want to do in that field.
So true. Number 3, what's an area of your life you need to put more effort into?
That's a good question. Probably patience for other people. Like there's a lot of times where, and I know this is a problem in me, but like, if somebody at a random event is telling me about something, and I know that it doesn't have any impact on myself, my friends, my family, etc. They're just saying something. I just completely zone out and like stop listening basically. Cause I'm like, this isn't going to do anything for me, which is actually pretty selfish, but that's like something I'm working on.
I know the feeling and being in there. It's definitely just you acknowledging that and telling yourself that is something you need to change is in of itself a massive step and so much respect. But I think a lot of people similarly do the same things, and I've been guilty of it too. So know that you're definitely not alone in that. 4th question: what is the first step anyone can take to reaching their inner potential?
Honestly, it's a mindset thing. You just have to know that like the shift goes from failure to I'm going to get a lesson out of it. And when you start something or you work towards getting something going or you want to do something, you always look for this, like, what is the outcome going to be and how is it going to make me look? And if you can shift your mindset from being everybody wants like the success, the win, oh, it worked, oh, I made money. But if you shift your mindset from the opposite being a failure or a loss, or you look silly, to like, I learned something out of it, I made some friends out of it, I created this network out of it, I met these people, whatever it is, it's that shift that I think unlocks people to actually take that step, because now you're not worried about the downside, which is usually what people heavily consider before they decide not to do something.
Yeah, so true, so true. Fifth and final question for you. Somebody's listened to the last 52 minutes of this podcast. What's one challenge you have for the listener today after they finish listening to this episode?
Wow, that's a good question. Get 9 hours of sleep. Just watch how it changes your life. I bet most people listening to this aren't getting 9 hours of sleep, and just try it. Like, I literally remember when I was like, all right, I should really try this like 8 hour thing. It took me a week to realize, because at night, like, you're watching TikTok, you're scrolling Instagram, you're scrolling on Twitter, maybe you're watching YouTube. It's hard at night to be like, all right, I'm just going to shut this off. Like, I used to fall asleep with my phone in my hand watching YouTube or something. But I challenge you to try to get that 8 hours or 9 hours of sleep, and just enjoy the next, wake up and just try to feel the difference that it makes in your day.
Yeah, it's truly an unlock, and it takes commitment and a boundary to tell yourself, I'll pick up on YouTube and TikTok, all this other social media tomorrow. But once people really start to commit to it, they really see how much it brings to them.
Totally.
Man, if there's anything I respect and appreciate more than anything in this world, it is people's time. You carving out time to be on today's podcast was an absolute honor. I'm really excited for this to come out, for not only just a incredible conversation. To me, you're an incredible leader. You're the hustler in you from that early age, and still to this day is very clear to me. Your mindset, your perspective on life, the world, networking, building, how to stand out from the crowd is really important. And I told you before we fired up the podcast today, but there's so much in this world about you as the DTC guy. That's incredible. You've built a name for yourself in the space, and that's the goal for, I think, anybody out there, whatever that is, that career path you want to go. You want to stand out from the crowd, and you've done that. Mm-hmm. What I'm really excited about is for people to hear this today, because there's so much content about you talking business, and we talked about a lot of business today, but we've also talked about a lot of these tips and these learnings that you've had through along the journey. And so I think it's going to be really important for people to hear, and hopefully it'll be a side of Nik that they didn't realize. Like, he is a human, like he has had to, teach himself to prioritize sleep, to prioritize his health. And at a high level, this was just a really good conversation, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be on it today.
Yeah, this was a really fun podcast to do.
Let's go. Shout out to Harry one more time.
Shout out to Harry.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed today's podcast, I have a favor to ask from you. Please screenshot this episode on whatever platform you are listening in on, whether it's Spotify, iTunes, YouTube. Screenshot the episode. I usually say post it to your IG story, but Nik, you're not on IG, correct?
I'm on Twitter.
Yeah, I tried finding Instagram. So for the first time ever, ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to send you to Instagram to do this. I want you to screenshot this episode on whatever platform you are on listening. Post it to your Twitter. Let us know. Tag Nik. He's at Mr. Sharma. Tag me at Bob A. That's B-O, 3 B's, 4 A's, and a Y. I'll have both of our Twitters linked up in the description below. But let us know, what was the takeaway? What was the line? Was there a specific lesson, perspective? How did this episode impact you? I would be very curious to learn and hear, because we talked about a lot today. So please screenshot it, post it to your Twitter, tag us. I also have linked up below Nik's personal website, which is nik.co. You can sign up there. He has a 5-minute tactical newsletter. Over 15,000 people of investors, marketers, and operators are subscribing. So you might want to do that for yourself, as well as I will have Sharma Brands, his company, linked up below. That's just sharmabrands.com. Maybe you need some business and services from him, so maybe hit him up. Is there anywhere else I should be sending people?
No, that's it.
That's it. Nik, fellow bearded brother, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Bearded Men podcast today. We'll see you guys and gals next time. See ya. Beautiful.